Seizing.
Yeah,
Who's
it
it?
is.
Danny!
In there, Steve.
Don't die on me. Danny!
Major seizures right now.
Hang it!
And then medically induced coma on him to help get the swelling down.
Dang, Marvel's getting scrambled.
Okay, he's calming down.
Yep, we got him.
His read's calm.
I wanted to do a quick video about the only movies I enjoyed this summer. They were Super Troopers 2 and Action Point, and I had an absolute blast. You know, I went to both of them baked, obviously. Super Troopers 2 was on 420, and it was in a packed theater full of men my age that were all stoned, and we all laughed till, like, you know, we shook the theater like the explosions in Avengers Next Door. And that was a great moment. You know, and my friend and I left the theater arguing whether or not the movie was better than the first because of how hard we were laughing. And then you come home and you look at, I shouldn't have done it, but you look at Rotten Tomatoes. And you're like, 36, what, or whatever it is now. I haven't looked since opening day. But I'm like, no, this is bullshit. So I needed to do a little bit of a corrective here, even if only a few people see it who agree that, you know, I enjoyed these movies and I don't know why they were shit on and why they bombed. And so with Super Troopers 2, it was this bizarre thing where the critics kept saying it was more of the same. And I'm like, I'm done with that criticism for sequels. I'm like, what did you expect, a Bergman film? Should you have walked into Super Troopers 2 and gotten Wild Strawberries, and it's about the patriarch of the family dies and the rest of the family's coping with it, and like the son tries to kill himself? Is that what you want to see? You know? And it's like the critics are like, well, it totally defied my expectations. It wasn't what I expected to see at all. And it's like, is that all it is now? Is critics just don't want to be bored? So they're constantly complaining that their job, by its very nature, is boring. Because, yeah, you're going to see a bunch of repetitive trash. That's just your job. And I'm always like, you know, even Ebert would do that. You know, even Ebert would just bitch about, you know, criticizing, like, oh man, I have to sit here and watch a bad movie for work today. And it's like, you know, watch Dirty Jobs or something to get some perspective on what other people have to do for a couple hours that they might not exactly enjoy. And then to listen to people like, you know, Peter Travers that are like, there's 2 hours of my life I'll never get back. Fuck them. Fuck the director. And I'm just like, yeah, fuck you. Anyway. So Super Troopers 2, that's the most common criticism if you go on Rotten Tomatoes, is more of the same. I'm like, I wanted more of the same, so I got my money's worth. Thanks. What if that's what you wanted? What if that's what you paid for, was more of the same? So I feel like that's why the movie had this, like, I think Super Troopers 2 was #1 on its opening weekend, right? Like for like 3 days, and then there was a steep drop because the fans supported it, and it had a really cool Kickstarter that I donated to, you know, and I personally think all movies should be made this way, where they're crowdsourced by the people who want to see it. And that is so cool. And so like I don't, you know, with the whole thing, you know me, like I think artists are obligated to please their audience. That is me. I think of art as a job, so you should be compelled to do it well or you're fired. That's, I mean, right? But artists like David Lynch and people like Jay Bauman on Red Letter Media who back him up with their pretension.
Something reminded me of a David Lynch film, and I just got so excited I farted.
You and your David Lynch films. You and your weird, obscure horror movies, Jay.
And they're like, he has the right to squander anyone's budget any way he wants, even if it's totally unwatchable trash, even if no one can stand it, even Lynch himself. The money should just be completely squandered. That whole production should be completely squandered. All of that work, all of that set design, all of that costume design, all of that work should be completely down the drain because of some pretentious asshole's uninterrupted vision. And that's disgusting. But that's a topic for another video. The point was, my other point is that I enjoyed both Super Troopers 2 and Action Point way more than I enjoyed the movies that I was supposed to enjoy, the hits. You know, what was it, the Thanos and the Solo. And so Thanos sucks. And like that movie has almost left my consciousness because I found it so depressing that my brain is purging it like depression. Did you know your brain does that as a defense mechanism? that it tries to purge thoughts that cause depression because that causes a chemical imbalance. So your brain tries to purge those thoughts so you don't have them as much, so the brain doesn't become unbalanced. And since the whole movie is so oppressively depressing, my brain is trying to purge the whole thing Thanos style. And so I have people blowing away into dust at the end and me laughing in the theater and people tittering along with me, and it kind of starting a little domino effect when everyone was trying to be serious. And I felt like I deflated Disney's attempt to ruin summer, just a little bit. Because Disney is obviously this big evil behemoth now that's trying to make people upset, or that's trying to make people cry, or that's trying to make you, like, I don't know, sad about your past. I don't know what's going on. But, like, even Kylo Ren says it. He's like, kill the past, it's stupid, everything about it's dumb, just wipe it away. Like, he has that line in Episode 8. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, I paid to support your stupid fucking movie. I'm only here because I like the original trilogy. And here you are like, oh, those old movies are cheesy and dumb. This is the new way. This is the new order, as the movie would say. And I'm like, yeah, well, your new order sucks. It's a big hodgepodge of focus group bullshit. So it's not one creative vision. It's just a pastiche of what they think will make money. And not just in America, but in China and wherever the fuck else. So now it's like, you know, it's like they have to have the Chinese guy who's in there for no reason. The guy from Rogue One was really upset about that. The blind guy, the samurai, the guy that's literally, oh, not literally, he's shoehorned into the script. That guy raised an issue with John Knoll or whoever's in charge of that project. And he said, I don't want to be the token Chinese guy. I don't just want to be the guy that's there because it sells Chinese tickets. He's like, I want my character to have a purpose. And so I think that they added a scene and they're like, oh, we'll give you another scene. Okay. So originally he was just going to have this one scene. I don't want to get too sidetracked here. The point was the focus grouped big behemoth movie. So it's just so calculated like a computer. And the Chinese guy still told the story where he's like, they tacked on a scene at the end where it's like he gets mowed down and it's like an honorable self-sacrificing death. And he's like, but that still felt like it's because I asked for it and it still felt tacked on. It doesn't feel like I was part of the narrative. And, that's how all so I really only saw the Thanos and Solo, and those movies feel like focus grouped pastiche hodgepodge messes. Like they don't hold together even in my mind. I saw Black Panther and I forgot it. Isn't that weird? I mean, that's not a summer movie, right? That was in the spring. So I saw Black Panther before all this, and I just remember my friends and I constantly imitating Forrest Whitaker going like, stripped away. Like, the power of the Black Panther will be stripped away. It's like, I love how Forrest Whitaker will always go a few levels above his scene mates just for shits. He does it in Rogue One too, like, save the dream! Sorry. I'm trying to have fun here. And sorry, this is what I guess Boogie2988 would call a rambling video. I want to start doing some of those, so if no one watches them, it's okay. I might not even do visual transitions on these because it's 7:20. By the cock crowing, it's 7:20. That was cool that he did that. So, anyway. I know. Thanos was depressing. Solo was depressing on purpose. Did you know that? That Chris Lord and Phil Miller were fired for making that movie too fun? And that makes me angry. That makes me really angry that Solo could have been much more fun and uplifting, and we keep talking about the Lego movie version of Solo that could have been, because Phil Lord and Chris Miller did the Lego movie, and 21 Jump Street. So we could have had that tone versus what we got. And it's no shame to Opie Howard that, you know, it wasn't a masterpiece and that it wasn't Apollo 13. I know that was their thinking. Well, here's what I'm assuming they were thinking with Ron Howard. And don't get, you know, this is a guess. Ron Howard worked with George Lucas many, many, many low ago on American Graffiti, right? And, you know, before he was shooting space lasers around and all that shit. And so he knows George Lucas. He does. And he shot a really, really cool, convincing space movie with Apollo 13. So I get it. That's a pedigree. You know, your best picture, best director, right? So wow, actually. Now that I'm making this list for myself, Ron Howard won Best Director, Best Picture, as producer. He's won, wow, yeah, okay. He did, and even before all that, he did these things that we all like Splash. Who doesn't like Splash? So I feel bad for Ron Howard. I genuinely do. That like Solo got trashed. It's considered the first Star Wars flop, the first Star Wars that lost money. Oh man, dude, people are like. I imagine that Ron Howard's going to be spending a lot of time on Arrested Development. Oh, and oh man, oh dude, okay, yeah. There's gonna if they do a new season of Arrested, be prepared for it to be about. Michael producing a movie that should be a success that totally bombs. And that's how Michael was put in charge of the most recent Star Wars film. And then Tobias runs in. He's like, Michael, I heard you got Star Wars. And, oh shoot, what's that little green fellow's name? The one with dwarfism. And he has a musical number. And he says, I'm short.